Welcome to another edition of Living Simply and Fun. I'm your host, Aries. Today we're going to be discussing a little bit about the rant again on sex change being paid by insurance companies and Medicare. Please do not distress or worry about the noise in the background. Aaron is playing the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. So, my rant today is an update on the sex changes being paid by Medicare and by insurances all over the nation. Now, I don't understand Obamacare, so don't quote me on it. But from what I understand under the Obamacare, apparently people are saying it's medically necessary because the transgendered person would commit suicide. I've lived this way 17 years. Now, for some of you out there saying, "Oh, well, I need it right now because I'm a woman." Excuse me. No, you don't. You're going to be listening to me for a bit. Now, me and Aaron were talking, and we came up with some research. That's right. Before you sit there and say, "Aaron's wrong, so are you. We're real women." Guess what? I didn't say anything. What we're going to talk about in this rant is a mini rant, I hope, to make it short. On the first part of it is going to be the definition of medically necessary. Now, medically necessary is where your grandma or grandpa need a heart transplant or open heart surgery or a pacemaker. And the doctor says this is medically necessary to keep you alive. Now, the transgender people say, "Oh, well, it's medically necessary because we the people need to stay alive to prolong our life as women and men." Yeah, at the taxpayer's expense. Now, let me just tell you what's going on in the transgender community before we go into the medically necessary card. As Aaron and I have discussed it many times, what's going on in the world right now is simple. You ready for this? What's going on is the government, as you know, the HHS ruled that there's enough scientific evidence that it's deemed medically necessary on the scientific aspect of transgenderism. You know, transsexualism. Gender identity disorder. Now you got every female to male saying, "Oh, well, it's medically necessary because I need my breasts removed because cancer preventive." They're doing it. Then they go and say, "Oh, well, it's cancer preventative. I need my uterus removed." And ovaries, they get the hysterectomy. You go to doctors on the male to female side. By the way, the female to males, just so you know, is getting surgery done down below. They just go and they make a new penis, you know. And then they're like, "Yes, I'm a manly man." Well, whatever. Now, being trans woman, I'm getting disgusted with, if you need to do something, contact these doctors and they'll help you. You know what? Me and Aaron, as you've heard in the other videos, we've contacted over 600 doctors that work with transgendered patients. None of them take Medicare. But some take insurance, then they get, "Oh, well, my insurance is through Walmart. It's medically necessary." Then they ram it down the people's throat. Then these groups sit there and say, "Oh, well, you need to make it medically necessary." Ram it down their throat. Then you get the other douche nuggets that say, "Well, you need to go ahead and force the issue by saying it's medically necessary by educating them and then getting them on board." I'm sorry, I've wrote letter after letter after letter. I'm buying stamps still like crazy. You know what? Most of my letters in my filing cabinet state, not medically necessary, it's cosmetic or elective. Alright, no problem. Guess what? Then you get these people saying, well, the definition for augmentation is this, and the definition for a vaginoplasty is that. You need to use these terms. You need to use these codes. You need to use this. So, Aaron and I have made every phone call to every doctor. Now I hear, oh, well, I had my breasts removed from this doctor. You emailed this doctor about breast augmentation, for examples. Oh, we don't do it. It's cosmetic. Well, we really don't do it. It's really cosmetic, you know. So please come back later, ma'am. Oh, really? Cosmetic? Yet you use the medically necessary card. Just for example, I mean, one woman I met online was planning to go through a doctor in the United States for breast augmentation, for example, and turns out the doctor didn't do anything. All of a sudden, she didn't want to give anyone an update. Next thing you know, she's messaging, well, what happens if Medicare covers emergencies, you know, when I get back, since I went out of country for a boob job? I don't know. Ask Medicare. I'm afraid they might remove me on my disability because I went overseas. So, anyways, the bottom line is, what is medically necessary? Medically necessary is for people that are dying. Like if I woke up and someone took a sword or a machete and cut my arm off and I'm bleeding, that would be medically necessary to sew me up, or do something that will fix me so I don't die. But they're like, if I don't get breast facial feminization and a vagina, I'm gonna die. Well, the government probably doesn't care if you die or not. Thing is, what is medically necessary?
And dying at your own hands does not count because that is your choice.
Exactly. As Aaron just said in the background, dying at your own hands is your choice, not the government. So you can't ram it down. The other thing Aaron and I are getting pissed off at seeing is people sitting there and saying, well, you have to help us. This is medically necessary. Well, the doctors are now saying, well, you want a vagina? Oh, guess what? Here's the information you need to get it. But even though we have your referrals, even when we have this, you need hair removal down below. Well, I want my vagina now. It's medically necessary to make me complete. Then you get these hill jacks that say, I need a vagina so I can have sex with a man. Well, unless you get the hair removal, you know, which they're not telling anyone, you got to go and say, hey, are you like Thailand? Are you like Europe? Are you like this? Do you require, electrolysis on the genitals before surgery? They all email, yes, we do. We'll do the surgery. Then, I've heard people say, oh, well, I can't get the surgery because they did a credit check and they say I can't afford the 20%. Well, guess what? That's not my problem. My problem is simple. Simple is as simple does. And Aaron and I have both basically sat there and discussed this in a big giant Easter basket. And Aaron's real pet peeve of this whole ordeal with the male to females and the female to male sitting there, because Aaron's done a lot of research with me. I mean, right now we're working on contacting one other doctor just to check in tomorrow after some errands, and we're also checking in with a new doctor to get in touch with them on some issues as well. The problem is, no, don't sit there and say, oh, well, you're not really a woman because you're a hateful, spiteful person, and we can't have hateful, spiteful persons. Even Aaron says, look at this description. Under my medical record, I'm not sharing it with you, it says gender, female. Let's see, gender identity dysphoria, gender identity disorder in adults. I've been diagnosed 17 years ago. So you can't just sit there and say, oh, well, you're just jealous, we have better insurance, and we're sitting there. It's medically necessary for me to be a female in the face, so you must alter me as much as possible at the taxpayer's expense. No. The problem is, until things get ironed out and people classify what is medically necessary and what is not medically necessary, you got to realize that a sex change is not medically necessary. Grandpa needing a new heart or brain surgery is medically necessary. Not some hill jack going, well, I'm a woman, I don't have breasts, I need implants. Well, guess what?
Sorry, it's not life-saving.
It's not a life-saving procedure. That's what me and Aaron were talking about. The other gripe is, and Aaron, I know he's playing a game. He can actually give his input, and I can reiterate a bit. But the other thing that pisses him off, as well as me, is hearing these people that are trans go, well, you need to educate the doctor, and you got to take the plunger, and you got to take the hot poker and ram it down their damn throat. No, the doctors.
I know. They say that you have to cram it down the doctor's throat, and then eventually we can make them do it. But that's not going to happen. All you're going to do is irritate and piss off the doctor so they won't want to help anyone.
Let me give you an example, okay? I have a medical team that I work with. A really great medical team. Even Aaron knows this. We go to them, we ask for certain things. We had a referral for a plastic surgeon. He says, well, I do with genetic women. I'm like, oh, okay, so I can't give any cosmetic surgeries. I do it with genetic women only. So I asked him, would you remove a woman's breast? No, that's up to the general surgeon. Well, what if you're going to rebuild the breasts from cancer? Oh, that's the general surgeon, or they can go refer you to a surgeon, say, in Yakima or Spokane. But you won't do it. No, it's not medically necessary.
It's only because he wants to play with genetic women. He doesn't want to play with a man's chest. That's what it really is.
Yeah, but I just said the thing. Remember, the doctor also said he won't rebuild a cancer patient's breasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, they go and they send referrals out, and this is what the doctor says. He says, "Oh, we can do hair removal for you, but we can't do anything else for you, dearie, because, we don't want to implant a man." Oh, well, I'm not going to sit there and be sitting there ramming it down its throat saying, eat the crap, eat the crap. Instead, I'm sitting there, okay.
If you force him to do it, what's going to happen is he's not going to do it proper because he doesn't care. He doesn't want to do it right. He doesn't even want to be there. So chances are he's going to mess up. Yeah, more than likely.
Would you like to explain? Oh, let me explain it, and Aaron can agree or disagree. Here's the other problem with these doctors that we're supposed to sit there and say, oh, well, it's medically necessary. They have to give it because we are transsexuals and we are in need and we are a people and it is discrimination if you don't. You know what? Doctors don't give two damns if they discriminate. They'd rather see you as a pile of crap for them to flush down the toilet because they don't want to deal with it. I mean, look at the thing. People sit there and say, oh, well, it's medically necessary. Well, Aaron and I both also know, and we've talked to doctors about this, we've got letters that doctors say the Medicare reimbursement rate is so low that they're signing it as, So, anyway, sorry I got distracted, but Aaron and I both agree, I believe, right, Aaron? That the medical reimbursement rate's so low that doctors do not even want to do any of that. So, the medical reimbursement rate is so low that these doctors will not just sit there and give the surgeries because, it's not, medically necessary, in their opinion. They're sitting there seeing someone ram it down their throat, and then ram it down their throat, and then the doctors get so pissed off that they don't want to do it. And there's another thing I want to share about these people that sit there, right? You sit there on a forum, for example, and you're minding your own business, and you're happy to mind your own business, right? Aaron, do you agree or disagree about the Medicare reimbursement rate being so low, doctors don't even want to do these surgeries?
Just about.
There's
and
like
the chance that many of the Medicare recipients will actually pay the 20% is slim.
exactly. That's the other thing, as Aaron said. The Medicare recipients who get the bill, do the surgery, bill me later attitude through Medicare, they're also so what do you call it? Iffy. So they sit there and say, oh, well, we can't do it because of this reason or that reason. And then you ask them privately, and it's like, oh, well, the Medicare reimbursement rate's so low. Or you ask them the other question is, well, why won't you do it? And they're like, well, if you had a Medicare Advantage plan, we could help you because we can get it pre-approved. Well, these people are sitting there, well, I have a Medicare Advantage plan, and it's approved. I'm sorry, I think I've seen a lot of chronic liars throughout the Empire of America lying about their Medicare rates. I was reading about a woman who was going in for breast augmentation, and they rammed it down the throat saying it was medically necessary. Aaron's heard this story. All of a sudden, as soon as they got their boobs, they've disappeared. It's like, oh, I've had my boobs, I'm not going to talk. Well, guess what? The thing is, the Medicare reimbursement rate's so low. And then they go to the doctor and say, oh, if I don't get my vagina and breast and facial work, I'm going to commit suicide. And the doctors are like, well, go get some mental help. You know, that's what they say. But the problem is, again, is like that, you know. And then you hear these people ramming it down the throats of others. And then you hear doctors say, oh, well, we do it. And then you go to their consultation. They don't do it. It's like, thank you for the time to come out 2,000 miles for surgery, but we're not going to do it because you don't have enough breast tissue, or you don't have enough tissue, or, oh, your referrals are all in order, but we can't do your vagioplasty because you need hair removal. Come back in the hair, you know, when the hair removal.
And it's not that they actually don't tell you about the need of the hair removal. It's just, it's not something highly spoken about.
Yeah, and then on top of this whole delayed thing, then they turn around and say, oh, while you're doing your hair removal, there might be a wait list of 3 to 5 years, and by that point, Medicare might not be doing it anymore. Oh, well, that's nice to know, but, you know, what the hell? So you got doctors basically doing what they need. Then you got other doctors saying whatever they want. Like, oh, the reimbursement rate isn't that, you know, it's so low they don't want to do it. Then you hear the people like you, the viewers, the sweethearts, the core of America, who sit there and say, way to go, hun, you've done this video properly, you've spoke your mind. Then you get the trannies, oh, well, you're against us because you can't look as good as us. Look at me, I'm 22 and I'm on Medicare and I got implants and facial work, look how good I am.
My problem is that they all act like frickin' vultures. They gotta have it now and they have to have it thoroughly immediately.
They take and then they go. They take and then they go. Damn vultures. As Aaron and I were talking about in...
They aren't even nice. It's like, well, screw y'all, I'm getting mine now.
Yeah, and then when they get...
The poor ones even think that the rest of the poor ones need to sacrifice theirs for them. It's like, give me your money. Well, why? Because I need it now. But I need it now, too.
Or you get these douchebags that sit there and say, oh, well, we're real women. You're not because, you know, you're this and you're that and you're this. And you know what? I talked to a woman the other day at this great Mexican restaurant. She looked at me and she says, oh, we've had a few people like you in there. I'm like, how'd they do? Well, ma'am, they were vultures. They picked, they attacked, they did this, they did that. They didn't like something, customer service was bad. They wanted their meal free. You came in, you sat down, you said, we said, ma'am, what can we get for you? I don't know, got anything with shrimp? Aaron, of course, was buying that day. I'm buying the next lunch, you know, on Monday. But guess what? They're like, oh, that's a beautiful bracelet, ma'am. Oh, you know, you look really cute, you know. And that made me feel very good and, you know, positive about myself. Whereas the rest of these douchebags, it's like, oh, I'm a woman. You gotta address me as a woman. You have to address me as a woman. I'm suing because you didn't address me as a woman. And then they make every damn person out there that, sees transsexualism
Some
and
people
bad.
make a mistake, some people don't understand, and sometimes you just take a look at somebody and you're just glancing, and so based on this or that, whatever, they're making an assumption, which might not be right. But is that a reason to go sue someone?
No, it doesn't. So, the other thing that really irritates me is like I said, when you got the doctors and you write them all, and you write back and forth, and you spend $500-$600 or more in postage, and you get letters, well, medically necessary, it can be classified as medically necessary, but as one guy said on a forum, and I'm going to be, I'm just basically completely bloody honest here. He said, and I quote, "The doctors are in the mindset of the 80s, which says it's medically not necessary and it's completely cosmetic or it's elective." Okay, well guess what? You can't just sit there and say, "Open your mouth, we're going to dump in the giant sewage truck crap there. All the trannies crap is in this giant sewage truck, one of those sewage tankers, septic tank removals. Sitting there pumping it in like, you must give us our surgeries because..." I'm sorry, but the doctors I've spoke to through and through, it's like, no. And then they get rammed down their throats. And then they say, "Oh, well, we've been rammed down our throats. We can do gynecomastia surgeries. We can do breast removals." And then they find someone that can do the uteral removal by saying, "Oh, well, it's cancer prevention." Then you see other people turning around and saying, "Oh, well, it's cancer prevention." Then you see the male to female sitting there and it's like, why is the female the male's getting everything? Well, it's cancer prevention. You know what? The problem also with these douche waffles is they're lying through their teeth. That's what it is. I mean, I see it. I've talked to doctors in the state of Washington, in Oregon, in California, in Nevada, in Idaho. I've done so many phone calls. My battery, I think, is going to need to be replaced, And then, when I'm not calling these places, and Aaron helps out, we have 2 phone calls to make this week. Because, we don't want to call because it's either email. By the way, talking about email, I've sent email letters even about the medically necessary. Guess what? They don't get back. And when you do call them, they're like, "Oh, well, the legalities is we can't reply to it because if we reply to it, it could be leading to discrimination. If we don't reply to it, then we're basically getting out of it by the get out of jail card or get out of court case card by saying, so we do not want to reply to it." But they answer that answer and all of a sudden, oh, okay. And then you get these people sitting there and it's like, "Oh, well, it's medically necessary." And you know what? Medically necessary, as I said, is if you're dying or if
need to learn what medical necessity is.
Exactly. I mean, it's
learn
like
what the word necessity means.
Yeah, exactly. You see, so technically, before you sit there and go and lambaste me because, "Oh, well, you're a hater because we're women," you're gonna always be a genetic male, even with genetic male traits. The problem is a lot of people out there have to realize that, be educated that it's not medically necessary, and then you ram it down the throats, which, again, I hate these doctors that sit there and say, "Oh, yes, we do the surgeries, but we only do it for insurance companies like MetLife, for example." It's like, and then you get these trannies that say, "Oh, I'm having everything done. I got a job. My insurance company and the state government's got to pay for it. It's medically necessary. It's medically necessary." And then, on top of the medically necessary card they ram down their throats, here's another thing they do, which Aaron and I really despise, which is, they go to their damn congressmen and senators and say, "Yeah, we're Democrat. It's medically necessary for us to have our surgeries. You need to make it law." Some states are sitting there, well, we can't discriminate against the transgender people, so the taxpayers can pay for it. Then it gets into law through their house, and then you get the taxpayers sitting there saying, what did we do wrong to deny the taxpayers their medically necessity surgeries, when you turn around and you see men and women getting sex changes, and then you sit there and you hear people say, oh, well, go to year 3 unless you want to move out of state or take a trip. I'm sorry, but Aaron and I have done some traveling. We've done some stuff. And let me tell you, it is not easy sitting there. No, I'm not belly aching for my benefit. I'm just telling you the experiences I have. And don't tell me, oh, well, you don't pass well. You know what? I've had everywhere I go. Buses, people on the bus, people in stores. They're always, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Don't tell me they're doing it because they have to. They sit there and they say, oh, here comes a young woman coming in, you know. And I go in and, you know, it's like I go to the blood lab. Oh, hello, ma'am. Have a seat. Done. All right, ma'am. Put this pressure on it and enjoy yourself. Or I go to the heart doctor. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Miss Rita. Yes, Miss Aries. Yes, Miss this, you know. All these things. And then you people say, well, you know, you're discriminating against me because, you know, you're against us. I'm not against you. I mean, all for the more the best, but what we're trying to say is under our things that we've done, letter writing, email writing, phone calls, doctors are getting tired of people calling and saying, do you take Medicare? Do you do these surgeries? Do you do this? Yes, I do it a time or two from time to time now when I hear about a new doctor might be looking into it, because the doctor basically sits there, you know, and can do it. I mean, I've heard people say, oh, well, this doctor's my primary plastic surgeon, and he's great, and we love him, and he's the best in the world, and he's doing all my surgeries. He's a god. No, the god's upstairs. You keep saying crap like that, maybe he'll come down and fire a fireball at you, burn you up, and incinerate you. There's only one Lord. You know, the point I'm making is there any weapons on that weapon rack you passed?
No.
Oh, it's just...
Well, there are, but they're all steel at this point.
Ah. Anyways, sorry about that. So, bottom line is, as Aaron said, learn your place. Do not ram it down their throats. If the doctor doesn't feel comfortable implanting a man, don't sit there and say, oh, well, it's discrimination. He's got ways of getting out of it. He's got more nurses than you can afford. Just walk out and say, okay. If you find a doctor willing to do it, it's fine. But then you have these people say, well, if it doesn't get approved for Medicare, you must appeal it up to 5 times. Okay, 5 times. That's great. That's gravy. Thing is, you know, Medicare is still open-ended. Now, from what I read somewhere in my paperwork, I gotta go print it out again for my own knowledge. I keep giving them to different doctors because I try educating them, you know, and then I get the one that's like, you're not doing it right. You need to do it this way. Ram it down their throat. I'm sorry. I'm not ramming down anything down a doctor's throat. That would be like ramming down everything, you know, and that's just downright wrong. I mean...
Well, seriously, would you want to go through a doctor you're forced to do something you didn't want to?
And then you hear these doctors, these people say, oh, well, these doctors do it because they want to help the community. No, maybe they want to do it so they can actually screw over this person or that person or do this or that. No one knows. The point is, I mean, there's only 3 doctors in America right now, apparently, that does bottom surgery. There might be up to 6, but I've only heard of 3 main ones. And you know, and then you got these people, you know, that produced a list, and then you call them and it's like, well, we've been trying to get off that list. We don't do that surgery here. And then I get letters about it, and they're like, please don't contact us again because there's nothing we can do about it, you know. And even every disabled transgendered person cannot just pack up a bag and ride to Chicago, New York, Florida, Texas, California, any state that will be willing to work with them. I mean, there is another problem with this whole thing. Doctors sit there and say, well, if you can't come, we can't see you. And then when you go see them, it's, well, you see, I can't do it. It's like you've just spent $2,000 traveling, and then you hear the doctor say, we can't do it. Then you got to pack up and go home. And then while you're going home, say by Amtrak, you're sitting there wondering, what the hell did I do? Did I say something wrong? And then you got someone like Aaron saying, no, the doctor just wanted their Medicare appointment rate, and then they screwed you over. Don't worry about it. Then you hear these girls that sit there and say, well, I don't know anything about that one. Then you go and you see these sites where they say, does anyone know about this doctor? No one says anything. Then you go and get a consultation. You go there and you're like, oh yes, the doctor must be keeping a tight lid on stuff because, you know, she's done many. What happens? I'm sorry, we can't do your surgery, but thanks for coming all the way here. What happens? Then you're sitting there thinking, what the fudge did you do wrong? The secretary says, oh, you must take a chance. You go out there, you get rude awakening. And it's like, well, is it because of what I look like? Oh, no, it's not that. It's just, we don't do those surgeries. Then why have us come all the way 2,000 miles to be seen and being like, sorry, we don't do that? I mean, is that the way of doing things? I mean, heck, you call up and you hear, yes, this doctor does this surgery. Oh, okay, next thing you know, you go there and look what happens. You hear the doctor say, oh, well, you know, we don't do that surgery. You just wasted your time, and Medicare had to pay them. And it's like Medicare fraud in many aspects. And then you have people sit there and say, well, it's okay. No, it isn't. You see, if you're going to do the surgery, and they're coming from 2,000 or 3,000 miles, you better give them the time of day instead of make up some lame butt excuse. Well, we can't do it because, you know, we've never done that type of surgery. Or, oh, well, I do it, but I don't do it. You see, I take an Advantage plan. That's another one they use. I'm sorry, if you take Advantage plan, you take Medicare, too. Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans are almost the same. One is a pre-authorization, the other one you do it after it. And then some say, well, we don't feel comfortable doing it because we don't know if Medicare is going to pay. So we really don't want to take a chance with it. So, anyways, the bottom line is, the reason things are not going too well with the male to females is they're ramming it down their throat worse than the female to males. The female to males, they just sit there and say, oh, well, you know, under Obamacare, preventive care is covered. I want a hysterectomy. I want mastectomy. I want, you know, these things. They get it done. Then they go to the doctor and say, give me a dong. No problem. Whereas a trans woman goes to these things and say, oh, well, the female to males had their breasts removed. I want mine built bigger. Oh, well, it's elective. It's cosmetic.
You see, the female to males are getting it done through preventative because preventative is covered. And
yeah, that's what I just said.
Towards cancer.
Because of Obamacare.
But breast implants aren't preventative. What is giving you something prevent? I mean, I suppose that if your head would explode, if you didn't have double D breasts, then that would be preventative of your head exploding. But
Aaron, I just want to say, do not give any of these transgendered people any ideas, including the male and female.
They're going to claim that they're going to have a head explode.
I would love to see that because it would be very good entertainment to see a transsexual's head explode when they can't get double D breast implants, as Aaron said. But the bottom line is, the female to males are using the preventative thing. Oh, well, it's cancer prevention, you know. And then they say, oh, well, no, they just use this code and that code and whack off the boobs. There's always a reason. I've talked to doctors about it, general surgeons. I've talked about 16 general surgeons that just say, well, we can, I mean, for example, I'll use Aaron as an example because you all laugh at his man boobs. We've seen 16 surgeons pretty much, and they all say the same damn thing. I'm sorry, you gotta follow these protocols, these protocols, these protocols, and then we might be able to lop them off. But you sit there and Aaron says, oh, well, if I was female to male, you just take them off for cancer preventive. Well, if you were a female to male and you were genetic female and it's medically necessary, we lop them off. But for a man, we have to make sure it's either muscle tissue or fat tissue. And we have to go by Medicare's own standards. Really. So doctors tell Aaron this, yet you're a female to male, lop them off. And then, you know, you get these transgendered women who sit there and complain and throw a fit over the fact that they're not getting their surgeries because the female males are getting it all and it's unfair. Well, some of these cosmetic surgeons will sit there and stick on, oh, well, it's preventative. We're just going to cut your breasts off and remove your uterus. Most of the time they go through a general surgeon for the uterus, you know, the hysterectomy. Then you get these idiots that sit there and say, oh, we can't get this done and that done, the male to females. You know why? It seems the male to females are the vultures of the community. They're so much of a vulture, they'll take and then they go. You'll sit there and you'll be sitting there and you could be transitioning for 20 years. They'll walk by an 18-year-old and she'll slam you into the bus or throw you under the bus and be like, oh, well, you know, I need it before me because I need to be young and attractive and I need to get penis in my newly made vagina because I'm a woman.
Female to males acting now.
You don't see a female to male sitting there, hey, come here, come here, oh, yeah, you know what I mean, come here, I'm just going to choose a name. Ashley, let me just throw you under the bus. Or Melanie. Next, you know, instead, it's all the male to females. The male to females are the problem. Now, you can sit there and say, well, you're picking on me. You're picking me apart. Am I picking on them? Am I breaking them apart, Aaron?
Well, maybe just a little bit, but...
It's not about me not getting my surgeries. What it is new people are causing so much commotion, and then you hear these people sit there on CNN and other places saying, damn, we have to pay for sex changes. There goes the deception rate going up on tranny women wanting penis and wanting to hit on us.
And Bruce Jenner don't help due to the fact that he's obviously a jackwagon.
Well, as Aaron said, you know, but we can't commit slander.
I mean,
so
he sits there and talks about how he's going to be recognized as a guy until a certain time. It's like, yeah, okay. That's not the way that a transgender person would be.
No, a transgender person would want to be recognized as female as soon as possible. I know this jackwagon that sit there and I can't figure it out. They're like, I'm going through the courts, I'm changing my name and gender marker, and I'm going to be recognized as female, and if you don't like it, F you, F you, F you. Oh, well, I'm better looking than you, so you're just a jealous twat. Or a dick, as some of them say, you know. I'm sorry, but I'm not jealous. What it is you're sitting there and you're rubbing it in like, bad dog, you don't get any, bad dog. And then you sit there and say, oh, this person has too much hatred in their eyes. Aaron, do I have any hatred towards these people? No.
It sounds like it because you're being emotional in your debate. But honestly, we are pretty much pro. I mean, we are not discriminatory against
I say if you guys can get it done, so be it. The problem is, as I just said, you see these forums, they say, oh, well, ram it down the throat. Doctors won't deal with you if you ram it down the throat, opening their mouth up really wide and shoving in a 2-foot submarine sandwich and saying, eat. You know, take that. The thing is, it's, you know, it's wrong, you know, and you hear all these people say, oh, well, you know, the taxpayer shouldn't be paying for it. Aaron does agree. I mean, the taxpayer shouldn't. What should be covered is mental, and it isn't. I mean, you have to go through this place or that place to this place to cross-check that place just to find someone that takes medical or Medicare so you can have medical. And then you hear these people say, oh, well, I need Medicaid right away. I need a full sex change on the state. And then they ram it down, as I said, the legislature, state legislatures, the lawmakers' hand. Some of them prove it, some of it don't. Then they say, oh, well, you're in the wrong state. You're just jealous, honey, that I'm getting it done. No, what I am pissed about is you guys sitting there ramming it all down your throat and saying, well, you need to take it. I'm sorry, but you know what? Sometimes I just sit there and see these male to females, and they're saying, oh, well, we're women, we need this. Well, guess what? You're not going to be growing a pair of tits, I'm sorry to say. But if you still have your balls, then grow a pair, buckle up as a person. That's what you are. You're not a woman, you're not a man, you're a person. Now, back in all the way back during the Rome's time, there's already one set of clothes. So it's either these guys, I should say gals, the trans women, want to wear dresses and hot sexy things, saying, oh, look at me, I'm a model, look at my cans, do. Back in the day, during like Saul of Tarsus, or Paul as they called him, the Apostle Paul, you had the same types of clothes. The women's were just built a little differently. You had what are they called? Togas. Romans, isn't it Romans and Greeks that wear the togas?
Yes.
Yeah, there's like one strap for the men and two straps for the women. I'm sorry, but the clothes were not the thing. You didn't see in the 1700s where a guy's sitting there, I want to wear the corset and the big bald foofy dress that's got like underwire all under it just to hold it together.
I'm sure there were those who did that.
Yes, I know, but you don't see many of them. Transgenderism didn't come out till like the 1920s when they're first experimenting, or 1930s, and then it got to the point where no one heard about it until America surfaced with 1952 with Christine Jorgensen. Bless her heart, she was a pioneer. She was trying to change things, but during her career, her career as well as her being a person, you get these people that didn't want to understand it. It's an abomination. You're going to hell. You're going to be barbecued. The Bible didn't say what was going to happen to the transgendered people. The problem is that's the other thing. Besides saying it's medically necessary because God didn't give you a pair of breasts, or God didn't give you a vagina, that God didn't give you the female face, then you sit there and say, you're just a grump because you're not getting it done. I tell you what, if you have doctors out there that you want to share, and you can confirm it, and that they do Medicare, fine. But so far, everything in my filing cabinet, all my letters, all my emails, everything point to doctors are being pissed off that you ramming it down their throats, and saying it's medically necessary because you need it or you're gonna die. I mean, that was pretty much the whole argument with that woman that was challenging Medicare for 20 years and finally got it. I'm sorry, but if you're 75 years old, you shouldn't be going and getting yourself a vagina because you're too damn old. That's the other thing. Then they say, you're discriminating because of age. You know what? The taxpayer shouldn't be giving a man who wants to be a woman at 75 years old that point when, you've lived 75 years as a man. What? You're going to live 5 years as a woman? Come on. No one's going to want that crusty, wrinkly face at that age. Do you agree, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, if you can afford to do it, yeah, but having taxpayers to do it, no.
Yeah, it's 75. I mean, come on.
Think about the fact that other people your age are dying all around you. People you've known your whole life are passing on because they can't get medical care. And you think you need a hoo-ha at that age? Yeah, and then they sit there and say, well, it's medically necessary. No, medically necessary is if you needed a heart transplant and you qualify. Or, you need, how's this, Aaron? For medically necessary, kidney dialysis. Without kidney dialysis, you die. It's medically necessary to keep you going to have dialysis. Am I right? Mm-hmm. There is a medically necessary example.
Going through a sex change is not medically necessary. The point I'm trying to make is look around. Look around. Are you going to sit there and be like, well, I need a taco? You know, that's what a friend of mine, a nice Jewish man I know says, taco. Knights of the Fur taco. Well, guess what? Point I'm making is, you people need to realize what you're doing is completely and thoroughly wrong. Because if and when you are, you know, you're sitting there, you're complaining, you're grouchy because, you know, oh well, look at them, they're discriminating against me because of who I am. No, I'm not. All I'm saying is look at the experience I've had. I've lived 17 years. I just found out about this at Christmas time. I've worked around the clock, behind the shadows, basically, getting all the information I can absorb, just like fly fishing. And guess what? It didn't do any good. You hear the letters here, the emails there, the doctor saying, well, don't contact us again because you got all the information. Heck, I got doctors saying, what is medically necessary as well? Medically necessary is, you know, kidney dialysis, not, oh, well, I need a vagina. And then they complain, well, you know, yeah, and here's the last bit of pet peeve I'm going to say. And Aaron can join or don't join, but here's the grouchy part about it all. A group out there, which I'm trying to remain nameless so I don't slander anyone, but a group out there, including a Facebook group and a other group that tries to help these people, turn around and they say that transgendered related surgeries means everything.
Yep.
Now the government says you get a vagina, that's it. And then the female to males.
Related surgery should be anything related to transgenderism. Breast implants, breast mastectomy, hysterectomy, vagioplasty, phalloplasty, facial feminization, body recontouring. That should all pretty much be covered if they're covering all transgender-related surgeries. But
Also in the clause, apparently by Medicare's own wording, supposedly it says all transgender-related surgeries, depending on what your primary care physician thinks. So technically, then they turn around and say, well, I need FFS, I need voice surgery, I need this. Heck, one woman I understood tried to bill Medicare for voice surgery. Medicare said that's not covered. Literally. So, before you sit there and go on a rant about me attacking you all, I'm just saying by my experience, until, you know, these things open up, as some people say, some of these group, what do you call it? Group, administrators, they turn and say, give it time, don't go overseas, wait a bit, you'll get breast implants. Or wait a bit and you'll have FFS. We're working on it. You get these people that don't want to wait. They're so impatient that they run and ram it down the doctor's throat. Then the doctors get pissed and say, we're not doing it. All because they want it now. Whatever happened? Then you hear these people, the female to males, most of them can be administrators on many sites. They say, and I quote, if you guys can be patient, you'll get it too. Just get what you can now and wait. Well, I want FFS now. I need a guy and I need a penis in me within the next year. I've seen that happen too, and it's like, you all are sick bastards. No offense. When you turn around and you're basically saying you need a man and you need a penis in you, then there's a problem. You don't see me sitting there saying, oh, I need a penis in me. No, I don't talk about sex. I sit there and I be myself. And by the way, the true reason why you people belittle me is I could sit there, fire up a pipe, fire up cigars, and then you say, oh, you're a man, you're smoking cigars and pipes. Oh, you're playing a video game, you're a man. Oh, you're doing this. Well, guess what? When I'm out in public all the time, and I'm not a cross-dresser, I've lived this way for 17 years. I go out in public, I get on the bus. I get people saying, hey, hon, where are you headed today? Oh, I'm going to this city. Oh, no problem, sit down. Then I get people that sit there and say, oh, the little girl's room's right there. I walk in, thank you. Walk into the stall, do my business, walk out, wash hands, go out the door. And then people say, oh, you can't do that because we are the true trannies. I got a letter that says, by following the W path and the Harry Benjamin standards of care, that says I am not a threat to anyone. Guess what? There you have it. Then people sit there and say, there's a few people that could call me faggot or queer, but you know what? Mostly they sit there and say, oh, how are you doing, ma'am? You know, oh, that's a beautiful bracelet. Oh, that's a beautiful, you know, this. Heck, I've been talking to Aaron about getting my ears pierced. He's like, go for it, girl. You know, but you get these people sit there and say, well, I need this and I need that. Oh, well, you're a naturalist. You don't like makeup. You know what? Unless I'm going to be prim and proper to a prom or a dance where I need to, you know, wear something nice, it's all going to be, you know, just, you know.
There's no reason to doll yourself up to go to the grocery store.
Exactly. And I saw a woman the other day, she was dolling herself up for something. It was like makeup, genetic woman, makeup. Me and Aaron made a joke about the woman might be changing in the laundromat just because no one's there. It's like, you know, I mean, she changed her shirt, went home, changed her shirt, came back to get her clothes.
Girls and women all today are taught that they're ugly. And they need everything they can to try to give them an edge.
Well, that might be, but you know what?
That's the truth of the matter. That's why we call things like your nose is crooked being a flaw. It's, you know, your eyebrows are one's a little higher than the other.
Oh, which reminds me, talking about these tranny douchebags, the male to females that have to be perfect. I was reading an article today about women, and I say trans women too. They should embrace what they have. And if they don't have everything, maybe you just need a vagina and breasts. Maybe the hormones will feminize you pretty good. Here's the deal. The thing is you have flaws. Embrace them, like Amanda Palmer said. You know, the singer from the Dresden Dolls. Instead, I need this, I need that. Oh, I need this done. Oh, my boobs are small. Give them larger. Heck, I've been reading Christian sites recently about breast augmentation, just for fun, where genetic women are saying, well, if God gave me big boobs, then all would be well. But God didn't give me big boobs, so I'm getting them implanted anyway so I can have big boobs. And then they say, well, what are you doing? Are you doing it for yourself? Oh, yeah. And my husband likes big tits. And this and that. Oh, well, welcome to the big titties committee, you know. And all these Christian women are talking about, well, we're not going to hell because of it. We can't go to hell for it. I mean, heck, I had a chat with a nice person the other day talking about altering one's body. I said, pray to God. I mean, I heard them. They were getting a little angry, you know, thinking I was ignoring them. But the bottom line is, they were, like I said, concerned about it. I said, well, who knows? We got to take a chance somewhere. But we don't need to take a chance talking to some doctor aide on the phone saying, oh yes, you come out and we can talk about your surgery. So you get hyped about it, you go out there next thing you know, I'm sorry, we can't do your facial surgery. I'm sorry, we can't do your breast job. I'm sorry, we can't do this for you. Oh, well, you've gotten all your referrals, but we can't give you a vagina because, you know, you need to follow these patterns for hair removal. Come back when you've had the hair removal. Oh yeah, by the way, we have a wait list. I mean, heck, one of the main doctors everyone wants to go through His nurses and aides won't even answer the phones or emails. And then you see people say, oh, have you heard this? Have you heard that? No. You know, so, have you heard about this doctor? How come he won't get back? You know. The bottom line is if you keep ramming it down the throat saying it's medically necessary, eventually doctors are going to snap and push back. And when they do, Congress and the Senate's going to cut off all of them. So, you need to be patient. You need to ride the storm out like everyone else. But the real problem is the male to females have no patience. I mean, let me just put it to you this way. Even though if my mama was a genetic woman, she said patience is a virtue. My granny said the same thing. And guess what? If patience is a virtue, then I just want to say that the female to males, when they turn around and say, yes, be patient, take what you can, all will be well. The male to females don't want to. The male to females want everything handed to them on a platter, you know? So while you're sitting there saying, oh, well, I would never do this, you know, I would never, do this, when it comes to the male to females, yes, you would. You're going to ram it down the throat as many times as possible because you want everything now. You must be patient, you know. So, when and if you wait as a patient person, things will come into line. God knows when it's time. Thing is, as a religious person, people say, oh, well, you need to have faith. I have faith. I have faith everything will come about in time. Thing is you need patience. You don't need to ram it down other people's throats. Just ride the storm out. And if you sit there and belittle someone because, well, they've done everything in their powers to do what they want, or you don't think they're female enough, or, female enough, etc., then wake up and smell what you're shoveling. Because, truthfully, I've had arguments with doctors about gender dysphoria, gender identity, as you call it, disorder, and I've had arguments about sexual orientation and gender identity are two different stories. But most people get confused. Well, if you're a male to female, you like women, you're classified as a lesbian, why not just stay as a man? I'm sorry, but gender identity and sexual orientation are two different things. So, I've had that argument with doctors. I've had arguments with other things with doctors too, But the bottom line is, be patient. Medicare will pay. Now, my thoughts. The taxpayer shouldn't be paying for it. They're already grumping about it. But then you guys sit there and say, oh, well, it's medically necessary. No, it isn't. If you're not dying, it's not medically necessary. Oh, and one other thing. As Aaron brought it to it, because I'm getting tired. Dinner's going to be soon. We have stuff we want to do outside, specifically cigars. So the last part is, as Aaron said, wholeheartedly from his bottom of his heart and soul, is a lot of people that is on Medicare, probably a couple 100,000 that are disabled, who are transsexuals, want to go through all these doctors for all these surgeries. Eventually, the doctor's going to cut off the surgeries because they're not getting their 20%.
As doctors who aren't doing it because they can't get paid anything.
Yeah.
They're already taking a reduced
Yeah,
amount.
they're taking a reduced amount or they're not getting paid. Then you got to go through the appeals. Then they got to wait for their money. They don't want to wait.
You expect McGinn or Bowers to do it from $75,000, reduce the rate to say $30,000 so that they can get it covered?
Or even $4,000 after all Medicare pays. But here's the funny thing. Besides, as Aaron said about the reduced rate, like he said, the big doctors, McGinn and Bowers, they won't take a reduced rate unless, the doctors actually get what they pay for them. By the way, if McGinn and Bowers does stumble across this video, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, for both of you, that you guys deserve every penny that you request for surgery because you are doing something that could be 5 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours. You're probably tired after you get that surgery done. You're sitting there, do I want the coffee or do I want to go home and sleep? So the problem is as I said, the Medicare rates are low. The doctors don't want to do it because of the real low rates. And then you have people saying, oh, well, we can give you this list, you can call them and you can do this, and if you don't get it done, then it's your fault. I'm sorry, I've asked every question under the sun. I still get the same answer, cosmetic or elective. We'll give you a vagina, but we won't give anything else. Oh, well, okay. So, then you got therapists saying, well, you have time to get it done. No worries. But you know what the real pissmire problem is? As Aaron and I just said, is the Medicare reimbursement rate is low, and no one needs to get paid very little for these surgeries. Oh, and the last part, because I got sidetracked, is the 20%. If too many people, let's just say there's 4 million transgender people out there, 2 million of them are on Medicare, and say 1/3 of those are on Medicaid, they go to Medicaid, the doctors are going to sit there and say, well, the Medicaid patients get paid, but Medicaid doesn't get paid full price anyways. It's a reduced rate. They might just say, well, we're not taking it. So, let's just say 1 million, let's just say 3,990,000 of them get denied because 10,000 went through these doctors and 10,000 of them didn't pay their 20%. The doctor's going to pull the plug, and he's either going to say, no, I don't take Medicare. Even if it's a university hospital, university could pull the plug saying, we might be getting federal grants, but we're not getting paid because the 20% isn't covered. I mean, how many trans people out there, as Aaron said, will get the bill not paid after getting a breast job or a vagina or facial surgery? He's betting 97%. Oh, and just so you know, for some of these clinics out there, and Aaron and I were talking about this last night at the park having a cigar. He's a sweetheart, by the way. He said, even if they paid the 20%, there's someone out there that's going to get the surgeries done from some medical center, and I'm not going to say go do this. He gets really pissed off at people doing it, especially the really pissy poor that have Medicare and can't afford it. He pays his bill every month, but the financial aid aspect, they get their facial feminization done, as he said, their breast job done, their vagina. Let's just say their bill, instead of being like a total of $2,500 for the vagina, everything totals like $15,000. They go and they file for grant. All of a sudden, I can't afford this. Their 20% is completely scrapped. Maybe they can only get a discount of 60% off. 60% of 15,000, you're paying less than 7,000. Then they start making payments. Eventually they say, oh, well, I can't pay it. 3-4 months later, they get another grant. 60% off of 7,000. Then it's 3,500. Eventually they whittle it down in their own way. And then they sit there and brag, oh, yeah, I had the federal government's grant programs through the caring program of hospitals and clinics that have to write it off through, charitable cases. And then Aaron says, then the doctors turn around and say, well, we had 1,000 patients throughout the country doing charitable cases for, having their vaginoplasty or their phalloplasty or their breast removed. And the bottom line is, it's just too damn expensive for these doctors. So most transsexuals that are disabled, I don't think will be ever getting it done.
Thing to keep in mind is there's only like 7 doctors in the entire U.S. doing it, and there's, 2 million trannies or something now. So how can those 7 do all of those?
Yeah, exactly.
They couldn't hope to ever do them
as
all.
Aaron said, you have 7 doctors right now in the U.S. doing surgeries. As he said, there might be like 2 or 4 million. I heard it was like 4 million transsexuals. 1% of our population. So we're almost, it's 340 million. So 1% of that is 3.4 million transsexuals. So 3.4 million transsexuals, that's including transvestites, cross-dressers, etc. So let's just cut it down to say 1.5 million transsexuals out there, give or take. And guess what? 7 doctors, plus let's just say there's 400 doctors out there that will do the surgeries if you pay for the money outright. But guess what? As Aaron just said, how many of them will do it? There's 7 doctors or 12 doctors or 20 doctors. Let's just say there's 400 doctors. In 30 years, they could not meet all 1.5 million transsexuals in this day and age. A lot of them would commit suicide. A lot of them would be ramming it down the doctor's throats. It's medically necessary. Heck, you get some of these 18 to 22 years old are the ones that have Medicaid, that their family's poor. The children ones that, want to get it done before they're 18. Those are the ones that they might be focusing on more importantly than the older generation, because the older generation, has, it's, don't say it's age discrimination, because it isn't. What it is the doctors know what's going on in the transgendered community, and they don't like it. As soon as Aaron said, as soon as Medicare got rammed down their throat with the HHS, with this Army veteran, the whole can of worms was opened up. Now every Tom, Dick, and Harry under the sun is trying to do it. And don't forget the other problem with these doctors, as Aaron said last night. Right, Aaron? A lot of doctors don't want to do these surgeries because the younger generation and the older generation are saying, well, if the transsexuals are getting a breast job, then the genetic women need a breast job and a breast lift and a nose this and a facelift. And
well, look at our neighbor. She heard that it's possible that you might be able to get yours done. She ran out to try to get her facelift immediately.
Exactly.
And she's a genetic.
The genetic woman, like Aaron said.
She's older, and she also tried to get liposuction and a breast lift.
And implants, is how I heard it. But you know what? She said it was medically necessary, and the doctor said, why? I need to get a man. I'm 58. I'm sorry, you don't need cosmetic surgery to get a man at that age. What? Well, then I better pick Moppy up and cuddle with him. Anyways, as Aaron said, the genetic women are going to be ramming it down, too, for their low self-esteem and their low, feeling less of a woman because their breasts are small, or their nose is a problem, or let's just say they just want plastic surgery because they can, because they're on Medicare, and they can sit there and say, oh, well, I'm a fat fudge, I need Medicare to pay for my breast job, reduction, make them more perkier, and a lift, and oh, by the way, liposuction, nose this, facial this. Next thing you know, the taxpayers have paid $500,000 for a fat fudge to be thin again. The point is this is a big volatile situation that you got lawyers, you got doctors, you got not the lawyers so much, but you got the trans groups out there ramming it down the throat. And then I've heard, the doctors going to Congress and saying, make this stop. We don't want this. The taxpayers don't want it. Then you got the HHS saying, oh, well, it's medically necessary to give the female to males everything, and the male to females a vagina. Then the male to females turn around and say, well, in this paper it says it's medically necessary for all transgender-related surgeries. Then the female to males that are with the male to females group together and say, yes, it's mandatory, it's medically necessary. And Medicare can't get a word edgewise when you got two transsexual factions, a male to females, saying it's medically necessary for their surgeries, female to male saying it's medically necessary for the surgery, and you got Medicare and the HHS and the VA saying it's not medically necessary, or trying to say, well, it's up to your doctor to decide what's medically necessary. Oh, and by the way, Aaron and I both also agreed with this. Right, Aaron? He said, and I quote, the doctors that have the power to say what is medically necessary and what isn't, whether it be a primary care physician, a plastic surgeon, they're going to use it to get out of doing cosmetic surgeries. Right, Aaron?
Pretty much.
Exactly, because they don't want to deal with a freak in their opinion. Then you have the compassionate ones that say, oh yes, we'll try to help you. But then while they're trying to help you figure out your FFS job or your breast job, they're turning around and finding out, oh well, our state is not medically necessary and it's cosmetic, it's elective. Then they don't want to get back to you because of this or that. Then you got these girls saying, oh well, I tried to get in touch with this doctor but he won't get back to me. That's because everyone wants to go through him. He's backlogged like 5 years just on the phone and email, and then they're like, oh well, I called and talked to the lady and she didn't get back to me 4 months from now and I don't know what to do. So the last part is, as Aaron's going to laugh about with me, is as I said, you got the male to females, the female to male factions fighting between themselves. You got Medicare trying to mediate with other Medicare contractors, and they're all wanting to try to say what is medically necessary. Instead of them getting a word edgewise, they say medically necessary is something where you're going to die immediately if you don't get the surgery. You got the factions fighting over it. Then you got Medicare basically turning around and saying, hey, you get to go with your doctor. If your doctor or your cosmetic surgeon or your general surgeon or your podiatrist says, oh, it's not medically necessary to make you a woman or a man, you're going to have to take it in the shorts or go find another doctor that you can bend to your will to get it done. Because it's not easy. Doctors are getting smarter and smarter, and when they're getting smarter and smarter, when they get smarter and smarter, they're turning around and saying, oh, this piece of paper says I, the plastic surgeon, can make the decision whether it's medically necessary. I'm sorry, giving you a pair of tits is not medically necessary. Oh, giving you a dick is not medically necessary. Oh, removing your ovaries and uterus? Oh, well, it's preventative. We have to give it because it's preventive. But for everyone else, they turn around and say, oh, you need to have tits because you're a woman? Well, I don't think it's medically necessary. No offense to the wording. I'll be washing my mouth out with soap as a minister. Or they'll sit there and say, oh, well, the government's issued vaginas. You can have a vagina, but we can't give you a female face with facial feminization because it's not medically necessary. Then, the last part is, Aaron said it, one of these days you're going to see some disabled transgendered person probably cause a lot of people to lose their firearm rights when they go and do something stupid like a shoot-up because they're pissed off that the insurance companies are going out, the ones like MetLife, Humana, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, etc., lose their marbles when they're sitting there, oh yes, my insurance for my company paid for all my surgeries, look how gorgeous I am. Oh, by the way, a guy won't sleep with me because my voice, I've been trying to get voice surgery or this or that. They might just snap, and then you got a whole epidemic on your hands, and then the can of worms get bigger, and when you open the can of worms, guess what? You're going to have to explain what happened and why. There's too much non-patience, too much discrimination, and too much pent up anger because all these things happen for a reason. You know what? I say be patient. Sit on your butt. Eventually it'll happen. If it takes 20 years, you can wait 20 years. You're not going to die overnight. And if you do commit suicide at your own hands, it was your own doing. Right, Aaron?
Pretty much.
So, please, subscribe, post comments, leave feedback, suggestion. I'm ready to have my dinner. May God bless you. May God bless me. May God bless Aaron. May God bless Moppy. May God bless the world. Thank you for watching this. Sorry it was a little longer than anticipated. May you all be blessed well. Thank you, and good night.